back. Our top focus obviously is the Election Commission briefing, which we just heard. The dates have been announced and the COVID protocols. And remember, the elections coming at a time when we are seeing a COVID surge at this point. But let me straight get in perspective from our guests who are joining us, Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist, as well as Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, both with us. Thank you so much for joining us and waiting by patiently till that briefing was done with. But Madhavan Narayanan, let me come to you first. The most important takeaway, according to you, from this press briefing, in light of the kind of COVID protocols here, would possibly be the fact that elections rallies have been banned until the 15th of January.
Like work from home, it looks like we'll have election from... Hello. It seems we'll be having election from home the way you have work from home.
Yes.
It's unusual, particularly given BJP's penchant for oratory. Yogi Adityanath and Narendra Modi, who will be, obviously the UP election will be the most keenly watched, and these two men are known for their speeches, fiery speeches, roadshows. Well, after what we saw in Punjab, where you had the campaign being virtually politicized on national security grounds and prime minister's security grounds, the digital campaigning may reduce the probability of such ugly confrontations. But the fact is that we are living in a digital age with a tremendous penetration of mobile phones and mobile videos, WhatsApp, and of course the TV. So therefore, I don't think road shows will be very sorely missed, but they will take some of the sheen or shine of the campaign, both for media people and the politicians as well. I suspect more for the media people. They'll have less to show by way of visual razzmatazz. But the fact that they are being held in, seven phases shows that of tension we should be bracing ourselves for. It is political tension plus uncertainties linked to coronavirus, which basically means this might be one of the most, difficult elections in which the logistics as well as the high-pitched campaigning will intersect each other in a way where all sorts of allegations and counter-allegations shall be leveled on everything from EVMs to abuse of the code of conduct. I don't think the current election commission is as strong as it says it is in terms of its ability to crack the whip. If it does, then we are yet to see any evidence of its ability to crack the whip, because we were just remembering T.N. Seshan, who was the Chief Election Commissioner of India, who kind of set the gold standard in the conduct of elections in terms of campaigning standards as well as enforcement of law. That we will have to see carefully. But I think the most important point is whether there is a chance for Congress to bounce back in national politics in some way or the other, although none of the states going to poll is such that it's really a Congress bastion. So that is something. But any details of what happens to the BJP, especially in UP and Punjab, will be keenly watched, as is the rise of the Aam Aadmi Party, or the attempted rise of the Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab and Goa, which might turn the things. So this is not exactly a semi-final election as the media cliche goes, but I would not mind calling it a quarter-final election in terms, not just the way. I wouldn't call it semi-final because except for UP, the other states are not really that big or significant nationally. But
yes.
The important point is that it's a quarterfinal because it will be seen. Now, this is a very important question. We will be examining this election whether there is such a thing called Modi fatigue among the Indian people. Because this is what, 2014 to 17, there is 7 years up. We've had the farmers' agitation, which was preceded by a lot of issues related to the coronavirus. And therefore, Modi, they say, has a Teflon coating where everything will bounce off him. And he's being the second engine or the first engine of the double engine campaign in UP. To that extent, his charisma, his ability to articulate and sense the mood of the people has been extraordinary for the past 12 years. Even it goes back to before the BJP won. And so 12 years in Indian astrological cycles is an important time figure. Therefore, to that extent, we'll see if there's such a thing called Modi fatigue. Because at this point in time, there is no significant evidence of that. It might be wishful thinking on part of the opposition parties. But there are some straws in the wind. We saw it during the state assembly elections in which Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan saw significantly good performance by Congress. You know, Rajasthan, please remember, Congress is still in power. The other thing is that the BJP no longer commands the
Right.
allies it used to. If you look at it, the Tamil Nadu allies have sort of fallen by the wayside of a poor performance. Akali Dal has left the NDA. Shiv Sena has fallen out with the NDA. So it's
Right.
not just the BJP. In politics, the more you're powerful, you're seen to be powerful, the more powerful you really are. There is a perceptionist reality syndrome. So
Right.
if this election influences the perception that the BJP is on the back foot, in that case, the allies will be more demanding. And this will also enthuse and embolden the opposition
Right.
parties to form their own alliance, because at this point, a lot of people are sounding this and that, but honestly, there is no significant cohesive opposition movement yet for the BJP to
Right.
seriously worry about. But this election, this round of assembly
Yes.
elections will tilt the score because it might take it towards the slog overs, as they say in one-day cricket.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Let me also bring in Gautam Mukherjee here as well. Gautam Mukherjee, your main takeaways from what we heard in the briefing. One aspect, of course, is with respect to whether or not the Election Commission will really be able to crack down as much as it says it can. And secondly, on the importance of these elections, obviously, because like Mr. Narayan was pointing out, it's being called a semi-final largely because of Uttar Pradesh more than any of the other states. But your views?
Well, first of all, I'm very encouraged that the Election Commission is doing everything in its power to try and, reduce the spread of Omicron and any other variants in the wings. We already know there are two more which have emerged in Europe. Now, this is a very good thing. It's the beginning, perhaps, of a digital form of electioneering, as well as, hopefully in due course, digital voting for those who prefer to do it that way, especially once the election card is linked with Aadhaar, which is as yet voluntary, but it is very convenient if you're not in your place of registered voter. You can still vote. You can do it from pretty much anywhere in the world, I would imagine. So this is a very encouraging thing. In terms of election commission and whip, let us understand session was an age and a half ago. It was a very different world in those days. Today, I agree with Madhavan that you've got a tremendous reach to your cell phones, your smartphones, your TV, and people at all levels in the rural areas, in the urban areas, poor, rich, everybody is using them extensively. Right now, we're on a video call. So, this was in the realms of science fiction a few years ago, a few decades ago anyway. Now, as far as the elections go, I'm surprised to even speak of Congress as a contender. What has happened, in my opinion, is AAP is strongly moving to replace Congress in any aspect. So one is every probability, as far as the polls go, that they may practically, if not win outright, come very, very close to an outright win. And then even if there are 2, 3 independents, they could form the government in Punjab on their own. that means a summary rejection of Congress, Akali binary politics. BJP has never been a prominent player there. If it manages to do something via Amrinder Singh this time, well, that will be something. Uh, Another thing is that Punjab may not be very significant in terms of the number of MPs it sends to parliament, but it is a border state that is becoming more and more anarchic every day, like West Bengal, and is a matter of great concern for the future. UP, well, in all probability, it will go to BJP, but with the re-emergence of SP from the looks of things. Again, Congress won't figure, and neither will AAP or anyone else. In Goa, they're liable to be, AAP is liable to be the main opposition, if you can call it that, because they'll have 6 or 7 seats out of the 40, or maybe even 8 or 9. But it's a great opening, and what has to be admitted and commended is AAP's stick-to-itiveness right from the word go, ever since it won its first term in Delhi, and then did it again for the second time in Delhi with thumping majorities both times. And now they're starting to emerge nationally. I say this in particular reference to Mamata Banerjee, who has not succeeded to move out of West Bengal. She went to Tripura and got trounced. In all probability, she will hardly do well in Goa either. So if Mamata Banerjee, who aspires to be the opposition leader of a Gathbandhan, with or without Congress, which is absurd, but there you are, because even Congress, if it gets 30-odd seats, it's still 30-odd seats that they need arithmetically in 2024. What is emerging is a very well-spoken and educated Arvind Kejriwal. He may not figure in 2024 as the leader of the opposition, but I wouldn't rule him out in 2029. These are shifting sands. So what is bad or over game over for Congress in all probability, because the leadership is absolutely lackluster. They don't know how to live without power. They don't have strategies to come back to power. They are fractured within their own organization. They will not hand power at the top to anybody other than the mother or the son. Congress is not in contention as such. I'd be very surprised indeed. In due course, whether BJP is, going to, in all probability, it'll take 4 out of the 5 states anyway. In this 2022 elections, there's more coming up in 2023, and then eventually you get to 2024. We shall see, but there is nobody of substance, of electoral substance, that can challenge the Modi juggernaut as of now. Fatigue, certainly, as a double term heading into a third term, there has to be a certain amount of fatigue. But the other thing is the massive Hindu consolidation that the BJP is promoting very, very aggressively now. And it is pleasing the voting public that is adhering to BJP, because as far as they're concerned, they did not vote the BJP to power for them to be very favorable to all the minorities. They voted them in for the Hindu benefit. And that is starting to happen in the public perception. So that could ride over schisms, caste equations that have always been the way to drive a wedge amongst the various Hindu factions, particularly amongst the Dalits and the rest. But I don't think that is working anymore, because even if you consolidate all the opposition bloc votes, they aren't as numerous in any case to a 50% plus Hindu vote. if it comes that way to the BJP.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, both of you, so much for joining us with your perspective. Obviously, several layers here with respect to the upcoming elections. We'll have to wait and watch. But some of the main takeaways that we are going to see, it is going to be focused on digital campaigning this time round. This is obviously a first of its kind, but similar in the vein of what we've been seeing across the board, the move towards digital. So at least until 15th for now, there is going to be no physical rallies that will be allowed. After the 15th of Jan, the Election Commission will then review things and take a call on whether that should be allowed. But nonetheless, parties will have to look at new and innovative ways of campaigning ahead of the elections. We'll continue to break down all of this and what it's going to mean for the elections in these 5 states, including Uttar Pradesh, the big one, going ahead. On that note, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to Mirror Now.